The city was a labyrinth of neon and shadows, towers clawed at the sky, their peaks lost in the swirling purple clouds. Below, throngs of people shuffled through the streets, their faces etched with a desperate hope. This was no ordinary city, this was my nightmare. A dreamscape where I was the gatekeeper, the arbiter of aspiration, the job enforcement agent. Every night I walked these streets, the weight of their dreams a physical burden on my shoulders. The air hummed with a low, persistent frequency, a constant reminder of the city's power. It whispered promises of wealth and success, but beneath the gilded surface lurked a chilling truth. This city fed on desperation, and I was its loyal servant. Each day, the faces in the crowd seemed to grow more gaunt, their eyes more hollow. I knew their hopes, their dreams, and their darkest fears. I was the keeper of their ambitions. My role was simple, deceptively so. I ensured order in the job market, a market fueled by the very essence of dreams. Every day, hopeful candidates would line up for miles, their eyes gleaming with a mixture of anticipation and fear. They came bearing gifts, offerings meant to sway my judgment, to buy their way into a better tomorrow. Wads of crisp pesos, bundles of US dollars, all pressed into my hands with pleading eyes. Each transaction was a pact made in the heart of the nightmare. The money, stained with their desperation, felt cold and lifeless in my grasp. Yet it was the lifeblood of this city, the currency of ambition and despair. I had to accumulate wealth to survive, to navigate the treacherous currents of this dreamscape, but each bribe chipped away at my soul, leaving me hollow and stained. The rules of this nightmare were etched into my mind, as immutable as the stars in the real world. I could amass wealth, but I could never steal it. Greed, the insatiable hunger for more, was the ultimate sin. It warped the dreamers, twisting them into grotesque parodies of their former selves. They became the very monsters that haunted the city's underbelly, preying on the weak and the desperate. Every night I felt the city's gaze upon me, testing my resolve, tempting me to succumb. The whispers grew louder, urging me to embrace the darkness, to become the monster I was destined to be. The line between survival and corruption blurred with each passing day, leaving me teetering on the precipice of oblivion. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. In this world built on ambition, greed was both the driving force and the ultimate downfall. To survive, I had to amass wealth, to engage in the very act that could destroy me. It was a twisted game, a macabre dance with the devil himself. Each night, I felt the gnawing hunger within me, a hunger not for food or water, but for something far more insidious. The money, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a curse. It clung to me like a shroud, a constant reminder of the price I paid for my continued existence. The faces of those I'd helped, those I'd condemned, swam before my eyes, their pleas and their curses echoing in my ears. Each morning when I woke from the nightmare, the fear lingered. The line between dream and reality blurred, the city's oppressive presence seeping into my waking hours. The face in the mirror was no longer familiar. The eyes that stared back were cold, hardened by the impossible choices I was forced to make. The weight of the bribes, of the dreams I held in my hands, pressed down on me, threatening to crush me entirely. I was losing myself in the labyrinth of this nightmare, my humanity slowly eroding with each passing day. The city was winning, its corrupting influence seeping into the very core of my being. The guilt was a heavy cloak, suffocating me with each breath. How many souls had I condemned for the sake of my own survival? How many dreams had I crushed beneath the weight of my own greed? The faces of those I'd wronged haunted my waking hours, their pleas for mercy echoing in my ears. Their stories were all different, yet tragically the same. They came seeking a better life, a chance to escape the crushing weight of their circumstances. And I, the supposed arbiter of opportunity, had become the very obstacle they needed to overcome. One day, a young woman approached me, her eyes filled with a desperate hope that tore at my heart. Her name was Maria, and she was desperate to find a job to support her ailing mother. She offered me all she had, a worn, silver locket, the only remaining link to her deceased father. Her plea was a punch to the gut, a stark reminder of the human cost of my actions. Her desperation mirrored that of countless others I'd turned away, her dream just one among thousands I'd crushed. In that moment, I felt the full weight of my corruption, the monster I'd become staring back at me from her tear-filled eyes. I took the locket, the cold metal burning my palm like a brand. The city's insidious power surged through me, whispering its seductive promises. I could feel myself slipping, the monstrous hunger within me threatening to consume me entirely. Maria's hopeful expression twisted into one of horror as she witnessed my transformation. Her dream, like countless others before it, was devoured by the insatiable hunger of the city. I watched in detached horror as she succumbed to the same grotesque fate I'd so desperately tried to avoid. As Maria's screams echoed through the neon-lit streets, a chilling realization washed over me. I had become the very monster I'd sworn to defeat. The city had won, its corrupting influence twisting me into a creature of greed and despair. The bribes, the wealth, the power. It all meant nothing. I was trapped in a cage of my own making, a prisoner of the nightmare I'd helped create. The money I'd accumulated felt like ash in my hands, a testament to my moral bankruptcy. Each day in the nightmare presented me with the same agonizing choice: embrace the darkness and survive, or cling to my humanity and face the consequences. But the lines had blurred, and the consequences of my actions had become too great to ignore. The city offered no redemption, no escape from the cycle of greed and despair. The only way to break free, to atone for my sins, was to confront the darkness head-on. I had to make a stand, even if it meant my destruction. The details of my final moments in that dreamscape are a blur. But as the city's grip tightened around me, a strange sense of peace washed over me. I had made my choice, embraced the consequences of my actions. The nightmare could claim my body, but it would never take my soul. Even now, as I wake each morning to the familiar comfort of my own bed, the echoes of the city linger. The faces of those I'd wronged still haunt my dreams, a constant reminder of the price of greed and the enduring power of choice. The nightmare may be over, but its lessons continue to shape my every waking moment.